If you want to govern your life, you're going to have to govern your time. You know, we don't talk about it too much, but time is quite literally the only asset that you and I have full control over from the day we're born till the day we die. It is the one thing that we have complete agency over. It's how we spend or invest every single moment that we're given on this earth. And it doesn't matter what your situation is. If you're at a job you feel you must be at, or even if you're in prison, you really have the ability to decide what you're going to do with that moment, how you're going to think, how you're going to behave. We have control over what we do with our time, and we can invest it and spend it any way we like. Now, governing your life, interestingly enough, it's so common sense that governing your life would start with governing your time, governing your schedule, governing how you are spending the currency of your life. And yet we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about it or learning about it. This was something that, I didn't really even think about effectively planning my days until I was, 30 plus years old. I always woke up, made a list, and moved on with life, but I never had an effective strategy for how to structure my life and how to structure my time and how to allot and budget my time to invest it in the right places. And time truly is your most valuable asset. It is the one thing you cannot get more of, and yet you can squeeze just about infinite amounts of value out of each moment you're given. Now, most men wake up on a daily basis and they're not in control of their lives, so they're not governing their calendar. That's where most men are at. If you're not ruling over your schedule and calendar, someone else is quite literally dictating your life. If they're dictating how you spend your time is your life. Once it's gone, you're not getting it back. And if you're not governing it, if you're not in control of it, if you are not shaping it and molding it to shape the life that you want, someone else is dictating the way you're spending your life, which means they're dictating your future. They're dictating your outcome. Just like if someone else was investing your money and choosing where it would go, they're basically making the decision for you on what your financial future is going to be. It's no different with your own life. And most men get up in the morning when they're told. They go to work where they're told to go. They do what they are told to do. Then they go home at the end of the day and don't know what to do with their time to leverage it, to create something better. And so they just sit on the couch for a couple of hours, maybe watch a little TV, go through the same routine that school and TV and movies and who knows what else has told them is normal. And they wake up the next morning to do it all over again without any change. And some people do this for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, working at a job and just kind of going through life without really ever asking who is in control of what I'm doing with my time here on earth. So many men are walking around in a slumber, and I think a lot of it is because many of them haven't even been shown how to create a calendar, how to create a schedule. So let's dive in. I'm going to share with you a few key concepts before I give you some practical application stuff to your schedule. Here are some great, just overarching key concepts about shaping your schedule and dictating what your time management looks like. And number one is just recognizing that time is your greatest asset. I know I shared a little bit about that a couple moments ago, but you need to recognize that time, it truly is the only thing you can't buy, you can never get more of. And there are people with billions of dollars on this planet, trillions of dollars on this planet that would love to be able to buy more time. If you are a person who is under the age of 30, you likely haven't even begun to feel the effects of how fast time flies and begun to feel time slipping and you going, oh my goodness, it starts to go so fast. I just turned 40 and I am mind blown at how fast time flies, at how fast opportunity can pass you by if you're not taking advantage of it. Having kids, I've got a 14-year-old now, and I still feel like it was yesterday that she was born. And now looking at her, she's taller than mom. She's huge. She's going on, trips with her friends, and she doesn't need me as much anymore. When you get to that 40 age where I'm at, you start to go, oh my goodness, man, it's now or never on a number of things. I've got to take advantage. It's like, you're 16, 17 years old as a guy and you go, oh, I'm going to have a great physique. You see a movie star or something or, an athlete and you're like, I want to be built like that. And it's possible, but yet, I'll put it off a little bit. I don't have enough, muscle mass yet. So I'll stay in the gym and in my 20s, I'll do it. Then in your 20s, you're busy and your priorities change. And, You don't want to hire the trainer. Then you turn 30 and you got extra bills and a trainer and time in the gym and you got young kids and then you hit 40 and it's like, oh my goodness, if I don't do this now, I'll never be able to have the physique I wanted. And that applies to so many things in your life. Time is your most valuable asset. Time is, by the way, worth far more than money. It's like I used to be someone who would try to save money on doing certain things in my business, right? So instead of hiring a person to do it and spending money, I would spend my time to go learn a certain skill and then employ it in my business. Well, in the year that it took me to learn the skill, get good at the skill, regularly deploy the skill, and get some results, I probably could have made 10 times the money in that year if I had just paid the right person to do it and allowed them to do it. And so I'm just getting to that point where I'm not willing to spend my time on anything less than what I want my time to be spent on. I'm starting to value it at a much higher level. And so that's the number one overarching key concept before even shaping your schedule is time's your most valuable asset. You need to see it that way. If you don't, you need to start shifting your beliefs around that and your mindset around how valuable your time truly is. Do not waste it. Number two is there is no perfect routine. And that's a big key concept. There are so many people I've heard say, oh, this is the best way to craft your schedule, and you need to work out in the mornings, or you need to work out in the evenings, and you should have breakfast at 6:30 a.m. But other people are, you should fast till, and have one meal a day. I am so not into that best thing because best is contextual. What I consider to be best is definitely different than what you would consider to be best on a number of things. Maybe it's ice cream flavor, maybe it's the state to live in. But either way, best to me is different than best to you. Best to me today may be different from what's best to me tomorrow. Tonight, I may become aware of a car that has a feature that the one I think is best tonight, maybe later tonight I discover something online and I go, oh, hey, well, now that car's the best. Well, now my version of best, or what I define as the best car tomorrow, is different than today. So best is shifting sand. What I would encourage you to do is not get caught up in best, get caught up in what you will stick with and what will work for your life to get you where you want to go. Another example would be the fitness space. You see trainers online every day. You need to do this type of workout to get a good physique. You need to do that type of workout to get a physique. And these guys are both saying theirs is the best, and yet they both have great physiques. And so rather than worrying about which one is best and being indecisive about it, choose one because they can both clearly get you to the result that you want. Look at the guys. They've got the physique for a reason. The CrossFit guy will get you the great physique. The bodybuilder will get you the great physique. At some level, it just comes down to what is sustainable for you? What are you going to employ? What's going to work for your life and be flexible for you? And then finally, the other main key concept before building your schedule is just recognize that there are seasons of life. You got to be gracious with yourself at some level. My schedule is constantly changing. As a matter of fact, my schedule changes every 90 days. It changes with weather patterns. When it's dark earlier in the evening, my family walks before dinner together. In the summer, we walk after dinner together because it's too hot to walk early. So my schedule is shaping and being, crafted around my life. And that's the whole point here, is that your schedule is meant to be an anchor for your life, to set you free, to hold you where you want to be and keep you, anchored, as in settled, as in you can stay with all of your patterns. But it's not meant to hold you down. It's not meant to keep you from moving forward. And so I know I probably used the wrong word, anchor, there. Probably not the best word in that scenario, but I think you get what I'm saying. It's meant to give you a framework so you can actually have freedom. All right, so practical strategies for time ownership. And again, these are high level. I can't get down into everything. If you want, I'll make another video, on more time management and stuff like that. Every single guy that is a part of my fraternity gets an opportunity to work their way through our time management and schedule building course and workshop, where we actually work with them through every stage of designing their life. And that includes, building the schedule and calendar. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you get out to a virtual event, find out more about becoming a member. Number one, practical strategy is you must create a vision. Vision is the most important thing you're ever going to have in this life, because without vision, there's really no point to anything you're doing. If you are headed toward a specific or toward a destination, you want to row a boat somewhere. If you don't know where you're rowing, it doesn't really matter where you stick the paddle in the ocean and start rowing. It doesn't matter if there's no destination. There is no practical use of your time. There is no way to budget what you're doing. You've got to know where you're headed. Without a vision, there's no direction. Without direction, you don't know where you want to end up. Without knowing where you want to end up, you don't know what actions to take. Without knowing what actions to take, you don't know where to plug them in your schedule. So it can be completely random and won't matter. Get a vision. Get it crystal clear on your vision. The very first thing that every single guy who comes into my fraternity does is craft their vision, because that's the starting point for all human activity. Is what is the future looking like? What am I moving forward toward? You got to have a vision for your life. So create a 1-year vision, create a 5-year vision, and create a 10-year vision. Know what you want to see. Know what you want your life to look like. That will tell you what to spend your time on now so you can achieve that vision in the future. Just like having a financial picture in the future or a vision of your financial future, that will tell you how to invest today. It's no different with your time and schedule. So have a clear vision. If you need one, I'm sure there are multiple videos and different ways, instruction manuals for how to create a vision on the internet that you can find. I will create a video on one. Of course, if you want to do that with someone, let me know. 2, block off the big and important stuff. A lot of times people will call these block off the boulders, right? The big stuff that's in the schedule, the stuff you can't get around. In an annual context, that might be a vacation. It might be a surgery. It's the big things that I want to build my life around. In a weekly context, if you have a 9-to-5 and you are trying to enter into an entrepreneurial lifestyle, you might have to work around that until you are able to then find a job that would allow you more time to work on your business, like a remote job or something like that. But that might be a boulder for you. Those are things that you really can't move and you need to work around, right? That allows you to see what is left over for you to invest in. After you block off the big and important stuff, identify the gaps to hit. What I mean by that is by looking at that overarching theme of my time is the most valuable asset I have and blocking off the boulders, anything in between there is time that you need to consider to be worth budgeting towards something. Before you even budget sleep, look at what hours you have available outside of your boulders. Have your boulders in place and look at what's left. That is your budget. That is what you have left. Now you got to allot sleep. You got to allot eating, you got to allot physical fitness, anything else you want to fit in for your life, you got to fit in those gaps. Number 4, you're going to have to learn to say no. The hardest part of building a schedule, at least it was for me, was learning to say no to certain things. I'm someone who's been a social butterfly my entire life. I love connecting with people. I love going. I love interacting. I love relating. But I have always had a tendency in my life to try to pack in too many things that aren't necessarily moving the needle forward in my life or my business. And you're going to have to learn to say no if you're going to build a schedule effectively. You cannot say yes to every opportunity. You cannot be great at everything. It's not possible. There's not enough time. There's not enough expertise. There are not enough lifetimes you could live to be great at everything that you could possibly show interest in this life. And so you're going to have to get good at saying no to things that are not your highest priorities. And this is, what I talked about in having a clear vision and recognizing that there are seasons in life is priorities even need to be prioritized. Not every priority is a 1-year goal that is urgent and requires you to act in a major way on it. Maybe your 10-year goal is to have a certain number of properties under your belt that you own. But if you don't have a solid income right now, you're not going to be able to go buy B&B homes right now. So going and shopping for real estate without a job and without the money to do it would be out of order in your priorities. That goes further down the line after your 1-year vision of make more money or X amount more money so I can have that money to go invest it somewhere. You're going to have to learn to say no to things that are not the high priority. And understand too that when you say yes to anything, you got to say no to something else. You are essentially saying no to something else. And one big reason for that is simply because focused attention in certain areas produces results, but spread out attention does not. And that's one of the biggest reasons you need to learn to say no. Your time is limited. You can't fit it all in. I was someone who tried to fit everything possible in, so I diluted my effectiveness in the hours that I actually was working or giving to something. I was always trying to cram in more than I thought I could and or thought I should. And, just always saying yes to everything always left me short on time, running late, didn't do much effectively because I wasn't focused anywhere entirely. It's like trying to talk to someone while watching a TV show simultaneously. You're not able to really catch what's going on the TV effectively. You're not able to have a conversation with someone and actually stay focused. I love using the analogy, by the way, for the focus of time and, singular focus of time. When you were a kid, you got your hands on a magnifying glass. You hold it up to the sun and maybe you hold it up to an anthill or a bug on the ground or a stick or a leaf or something. And if you can tilt that magnifying glass just right, you'll be able to take the sun that's coming through, the sunlight that's coming through that magnifying glass and, squeezing it down to one small beam of light. And when it does that, you've focused all that heat and energy coming through that magnifying glass from the sun into a tiny little space, and that's when it lights a leaf or a bug or a stick on fire. But if you don't narrow down and focus all of that energy into one small beam of light, and it just stays a larger beam of light, all it does is warm stuff up. And it's the same thing with your schedule. You're going to have to focus your time down, your energy down. Your focus and intention is the most incredible tool you have in your tool belt. Your focus and consistency over a period of time. If you do not focus that down enough and you spread out your attention saying yes to far too many things, you will never be majorly effective at anything. You will simply warm a number of things up. There's no such thing as an effective jack of all trades. Specialists are where it's at. All right, so learn to say no. And then I think, too, with learning to say no, don't let me forget this. Obviously, you're prioritizing high-value tasks over time wasters. Like, you're going to have to learn to say no to certain people. But you're also going to have to say no to things that are beneath you. And sometimes that is people, and sometimes it's actions you're taking. Now, beneath you, I'm not talking about, I'm too prideful to clean a toilet. I own my company, but I also know how to scrub a toilet if it's needed. But I also recognize that as the CEO of my company, my time is not best spent. It's not the most leveraged thing I can do, cleaning toilets. If it needs done, it's urgent, heck, I'll knock it out. I don't mind leading the way and doing that in my own business. But if I'm cleaning toilets, instead of recording videos like this, that then turn into books and podcasts and social media posts and everything else down the line, if I'm not doing this and I'm focused on that, I'm not focused on the thing that is made for me and that I'm made for. That is an action that is below me. Sometimes relationships that I have had in the past, I have now elevated in my own understanding and in my own maturity to a place where there are certain relationships that are beneath me. Or if you don't like the picture of beneath because it makes it sound like someone's being prideful or arrogant, then maybe behind. I've moved further down the path now. There are people and there are activities that you need to cease spending time with and on as soon as possible because they are behind where you're at. You've moved on. Number 5, flex with life's challenges. I shared it earlier, but the seasons of life. When I have non-negotiables in my schedule, to be real, there's no such thing as a non-negotiable. I can write down that going to the gym is non-negotiable, but if my wife ends up in the hospital that day, guess who's not going to the gym? Non-negotiables are there as accountability tools to keep you consistent and disciplined on the path you want to be on. It doesn't mean that your schedule is ruling over you. And, that's something that I think there needs to be a mindset shift with a lot of people around their schedule. Your schedule is meant to free you, not enslave you. It's to be a tool to help you be better and stay more consistent. It's not something that needs to hem you in and keep you in a place of such rigidity that you can't live and breathe. So learn to flex with life's challenges and to flex with life's seasons. If you got to work late here and there, it happens. The trick is holding to it as consistently as you possibly can because that's what's going to guide your growth in an organic way. And then number 6 is just leverage your time effectively. And this is something I am becoming a bigger and bigger fan of as my time becomes more and more valuable to me. I start thinking, what can I do in any given time that I have to maximize that time? So whereas I used to drive in my truck and just think I mean, sometimes thinking can be great while you're driving in the truck, but sometimes you're just thinking and not really thinking productively. And so I will choose certain things to strategize around while I'm driving. I've started recording quite a lot of videos on the road for my social media while I'm driving. A new thing I've started to do is now I'm using a couple of different apps to be able to write a book through my voice while I'm driving. And so a 10-hour road trip turns into a book getting written. And so leveraging your time effectively is a major key, a major strategy for owning your time. All right, so practicals. This is the last section I'm going to give you. I know it's a lot of content today, but I'm going to give you a few practicals for planning your own schedule just so you can start to plug these in. But when we're talking about a daily schedule, I always like to start with, I usually work annual goals, quarterly, biannual, all that fun stuff, all the way down to my perfect day. But I'm going to start the other way and go daily up to annually because we're talking about individual habits that get put in place. So to be clear, I have what I have called an ideal day. I have built my ideal day where I go, if I wake up and every day had to look exactly the same, let's say it was a year of Mondays, every day of my life is Monday, what would that day look like? And my ideal day always has, and I would encourage you to do the same, is have an exact same morning and exact same evening every day possible. The reason for that is to create a rhythm for yourself that will allow you to create some automaticity in your life. Automaticity is the ability to perform a given task without having to think about it because it's become automatic. When you are jumping all over the place with your schedule, every day looks different. There's no pattern for you to follow and there's no rhythm for you to get into. Now, to be clear, some rhythms can become ruts if you're not careful. But when we're talking about a rhythm that helps keep you on schedule and challenge you, it's very helpful to have mornings and evenings specifically that look the same. Because the way you start your day really determines a lot of how it goes. And the way you prepare for the next day at night dictates how the next day is going to go on its own. So it's like if my evening is very structured, I can dictate the way I'm going to wake up. And if I wake up well, my entire day usually goes well. So create a pattern for yourself. As a matter of fact, I have a pattern for pretty much every day of my life. I wake up at the same time every single day, unless there's some random thing that keeps me up late or I don't feel well, and I go to bed at the same time every single night. It allows me to create consistency and discipline and consistent measured results. Now, what I've done with that day is I extended that so every single day in my week looks the same with my wake up and go to bed. Obviously, Saturdays and Sundays are going to look a little different than Monday through Friday for me. So what I've done is now I've created an ideal week where I block out the type of work I'm going to do on Monday, the specific type of work I'm going to do Tuesday, and so on and so forth. So develop not only an ideal day, what does the beginning and end of your day look like? What is the ideal rhythm for a day for you? But then what is your ideal rhythm for your week? How do you want to spend it? How do you want to spend your hours? And by the way, as a part of your ideal day, those gap times we talked about identifying earlier in this video, those gap times are where you need to be placing things where you can leverage yourself up into a new station in life. If you need a new job, those extra hours, those extra gaps, find a way to utilize those hours to be able to get yourself that new job. You're starting a business, you're going to have to spend time learning. You're going to have to spend time educating yourself. You're going to have to spend some time developing your business. If you're working a regular job, you're going to have to find those gaps to place things in. That should ideally go into your ideal day and your ideal week. For me, my ideal, some daily essentials for growth I would recommend for every man would be things like spiritual growth. I read my scripture and pray every single day. Doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, doesn't matter if it's 50 minutes, I get it in. I always have time for personal development or learning something, whether it's reading a book, a podcast, watching a YouTube video from someone I want to learn from. I always do some learning. So spiritual growth, learning. I try to always get in some form of exercise if at all possible. Walk, push-ups, go to the gym. Sometimes you're going to have seasons in your life again where you can work out for an hour. Sometimes it's going to be 25 minutes. Get what you can. And then, of course, connection with my wife and connection with my family. Those are my daily non-negotiables that I make sure are written into my schedule and placed there. Does stuff come up? Sure. But the reality is those are the things I have built my life around as my daily non-negotiables that I want, that are essential to my life. All right. And then weekly, after you've created your ideal week, Include consistent activities like date nights and review sessions every week. I plan my week every single week. Now, that means that every Friday I go through my entire day planner, I look at my calendar for the next week, and I plan it out to where by Sunday night, when I go into work Monday morning, every single hour of my week is planned out. I do that every single Friday. And every single night of the week, I look at my schedule so I can be aware of what's coming the next day. But there are some of those things you need to do weekly. For me and my wife, we have a standing date every single Friday evening. We go on date night. That can be in the house. Sometimes we'll leave. Other times we'll go meet another couple, but we have that in our schedule. Sometimes, again, it has to shift here and there, but it is a rock or a boulder in our schedule that we try to very rarely, if ever, move. Maybe a specific connection with each of your kids if you can on a weekly basis. I try to have some sort of impactful connection with my kids every day, whether it be just sitting with them on the couch for 5 minutes or reading a book or scratching their back, whatever it may be. But I also try to have some sort of weekly connection with each of my kids where I'm spending a little more focused time with them, even if it's 30 minutes to an hour, just something special that will make them connect with you. Those are great things to include weekly. Maybe a weekly financial review. My wife and I sit down each week and we go over our calendar, we go over our budget, we talk briefly about the high-level stuff we need to, we move on. Those are some things to think about weekly. When it comes to monthly, you can pick them on your own, but I love to do a financial review every month. I love to do a look over a calendar as a family every single month. Same thing with quarterly and, of course, annually. Plan your family events, plan your vacations, plan your milestones. These are some things that you can place in your annual calendar that will help you own your time in a much better way. So just as a mindset for success, I know I gave you a ton of content today, and go back. Feel free to read through those points, and I'll give them to you now real quick again. Key concepts before shaping your schedule. Time's your most valuable asset. There is no perfect routine. There are seasons to life. And then, of course, your practical strategies for time ownership. Set a clear vision. Have a clear purpose. Block off the big important stuff. Identify gaps. Learn to say no. Flex with life's challenges. And leverage your time effectively. And beyond that, just employ those daily practicals, the weekly practicals. Build your life in a way that allows you to dictate your future, that allows you to shape your life by design. Guys, your schedule is meant to free you. It is meant to give you wings. It is meant to be a guiding rod for your life. It's not meant to strangle the life out of you. And don't become enslaved to the schedule. Let it be a tool in your tool belt and not the master to your life. Treat your time with the value it deserves. It is priceless. You will never get it back. But in order to govern your life, you're going to have to govern your time. Thanks for tuning in. Share this. Give me a comment. Subscribe. Let me know how it hit you. I'll see you guys on the next episode.